welcome to the Hallmark Hughes podcast. And we're really excited today. We are back recapping, and just like that, because we had such a great response from the last episode. So we figured, well, let's do it. Let's talk about each episode. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Jax is here.
Rachel, we didn't know what we were walking into last time because we had both stayed up super late to watch it. So we had not had anyone's response except for our own by the time that we actually we podcasted about it hours later. So it was kind of fun to get to talk to you and then to see all of the responses coming out and to talk to other people. So I'm really glad we did that.
Yeah, and we got everything from you all were too hard on it to that you're nitpicking, to the other extreme that this was a garbage show and it was awful and we were too nice to it. So we'll just give our response, and whatever you interpret that to be, that's what it is. So yeah.
That actually made me feel good.
Yeah,
that
right.
It was like, oh, it wasn't, but I will say that no one can disagree with, we're all wondering why she can call 911. A lot of people talked about that. Yeah. And Rachel, you called it with the Peloton. I couldn't stop laughing. And then it became this huge thing where everyone was like, what's going on Peloton? Yeah. So you were the first person that I heard mention anything about anything, and that blew up. So
yeah, well, and then they're like, stock took a dive, which of course, why on earth? I mean, it sounds like, from what I've heard in these snarky comments by the Peloton people, that I don't think that this was a paid promotion. It doesn't sound like it, or they're walking back from it as if it's not.
No, I think you're right. I don't think it is, which makes your comment to me even funnier when you were like, I don't think it's the flex that you think it is. And then knowing that they didn't do it, it was just, yeah, but it was a major nosedive. I think it was like 5%. I don't know. I don't follow.
It was a lot. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a significant dive. And so then like the CEO or whatever of Peloton was coming out like super snarky about the show. And if it was me, that would rise up the stock because I think that's hilarious.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to get one, but I do think it's cool.
I mean, I can't afford that nonsense, but plus I don't know, that's just not my style of exercise. I mean, not that I'm one to give advice on this topic, but still, like, the whole boot camp kind of idea is not for me.
No, I am what they call, I like a little bit more carrot, a little less stick. I don't like anyone yelling at me. I like it to be, we're dancing, Zumba, I love you, you're great. Or like, any way you move your body is the way it's meant to be.
Right. Yeah, just get out there. I mean, I love to swim, and that part of the reason why I love to swim is because I love the like white noise of it, that you're just under the water and the only thing you can hear is just your own like thoughts. And I don't get to do it as much as I would like, but I love swimming. So that's definitely the opposite of Peloton.
You're a good swimmer. Like, you know how to like really do it.
Well, I mean, define good. I don't know, but I have finished 15 open water swims over the years. So
yeah. I would define that. Rachel, I can barely tread water, and I still consider myself like I can swim. So yeah, I think I would put you in the good category.
It's really fun. Especially when you swim the Devil Lake, as we call it, Salt Lake, the Great Salt Lake, is we call it the Devil Lake.
It's so you're brutal. A swimmer. You're like, if you know, you know.
Yeah. Well, so we are going to talk about episode 3 today. This is called When in Rome, and it's despite the support of Miranda, Charlotte, and Stanford, Carrie seems to need a place. In particular, she may try to escape Charlotte, who is sometimes emotionally suffocated, is the summary. So what do you think about this episode overall? Do you think it was an improvement on the first 2 or not so much?
So I actually thought it was a vast improvement. And here's why. I feel like even though there was a lot of kerfuffle over killing Big Off, and I don't know how I felt about that, and it was jarring, and a lot of people said they weren't going to watch. I do feel like by doing that, I didn't know how I would feel when I watched the episode, but it did bring me back to original Sex and the City, where they're just off having all these adventures, and it's about their friendship, and whether it's superficial and fun and ludicrous or a little bit deeper and more heartfelt, it has a little bit more of the original flavor of the show, which was what I was wanting when I started watching and just like that in the first place. So that's how I felt about this one. How did you feel?
I thought that it was really nice it was a good episode for Carrie and Charlotte. I didn't really love the Miranda, what they've chosen for her plot line. It's not my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Also because I really love Che, and I don't see that for Che and Miranda either. Like it's just, and we love Miranda and Steve together. Like, look, I know that they're not, maybe things aren't all clicking with them, but yeah, I'm not sure what's happening with her.
Yeah, I forgot to mention this will be a more mature podcast for those that are used to our normal content. We literally have tons of other episodes, so if it's not your jam, then you don't have to listen to this one. But yeah, I don't know. I do want to make a correction. I said last time that Che was played by Sarah Myers. I said it's for just trans actor. She's non-binary. So I made a mistake there, and I apologize for that. But I'm not really buying that she's like this comedic heavyweight. I don't know. I think that the podcast is super cringy. I would never listen to this in a million years. I'm always just like, oh, sounds awful.
You know what's interesting? I think that the Che doing the stand-up was actually very solid. The podcast doesn't do it for me either, but Che doing stand-up I thought was legitimately funny and reminding me of someone who is a good comedian doing a Netflix special. Like I bought that Che was at that level. But the podcast,
it's so bad.
Yeah, it's a little what do they call Howard Stern originally? The shock jock. Is that what they called him?
Yeah.
That's usually just the kind of stuff I don't listen to on a podcast. And then watching the stand-up, it works for me way better. And I don't know why that is.
Like Howard Stern, he actually is a pretty good interviewer. I haven't listened to tons of his, but I listened to his interview with Hillary Rodham Clinton. I've listened to a few of his interviews, and he actually asks like good questions, and he's interesting and he's funny. And that like, if this was a radio spot, that was a 5-minute spot or something like on Sirius or something like that with music or something, maybe I could see that. But like listening to these two people talking about who they have, whether they want to bone each other is just not, like, it was awful. I would not want to listen to that.
And then Carrie just going like, city bike.
Yeah, like city bike triggers. That's supposed to be like a super funny joke, and I'm just like, what? I don't know. The podcast is just that this is supposed to be like very successful podcast, and I do not buy it for a second.
Yeah, and but I did think that the line was funny when Carrie says that she's coming to Che's Netflix special, and she's like, "You don't have to come." Carrie's like, "You came to my funeral, I'll come to your comedy show."
Yeah.
And I thought, knowing a lot of comedians in New York City, that is just as bad sometimes. People do not want to go to either of those Thanks.
I don't know much about going to stand up, but I have had many people ask me to go to their improv night, and that's like brutal. So much. So yeah, if you invite me to your
Rachel, we got
improv
here
night,
soon. We got here sooner than I thought. It's sorry to all of my friends. Yeah, it's rough. I like sketch, improv stuff. You feel on it.
Yeah, like obviously the people on like Whose Line Is It Anywhere are masters. They're the best at doing it. But most of the others, it's rough. You can only.
And you feel like you gotta give a
Yeah.
lot. All right, give me a word. And there's a lot of effort on the audience's part as well. The bravery it takes. I would not do it.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
What do you think of the whole death trifecta?
Oh, wait. The death trifecta.
The death trifecta is she had the awful night of him dying, and then the funeral, and then reading of the will. That's the death trifecta.
Okay. So the reading of the will sets us up for an adventure that I absolutely love. That on one level, I love seeing classic Madcap Carey, and then on a deeper level, I can talk a little bit later about my feelings about what they have dragged poor Natasha through. It's like Carrie's never learned her lesson. But the will reading was really interesting in that she's sitting there, she's like, I'm happy, sad, this is the last part of what I've got to do. And then the bomb that's dropped, that Big has left Natasha $1 million, was really jarring. How did you feel about that review?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was, because Carrie talks about being in this kind of good place in a way, because they left on a happy, sad note. And then she gets mad at him for ruining the happy, sad, which I thought was actually pretty good writing, a good insight into her character. And so, yeah, it was definitely surprising. And, what would you think, of course, if your husband left that much money in the will for his ex-wife? Like, that's just weird. The one thing I didn't get, though, is so she finds a number in his clothes and she calls it, and it's her number. Wouldn't you know your number? Like, I know we don't know many numbers, but I feel like we at the very least know our own number.
Yeah. And yeah, I didn't understand that either. I was kind of like, make it make sense.
What?
I would know my own.
I mean, again, like these days with cell phones, we don't know that many numbers. Like I couldn't tell you anybody but my parents who've had the same number, and my own, of course. But that's the thing, you would know your own number. She's like, what is this number? Who is it? I'm like, I don't know. That was weird.
Like, oh wait, it's me.
Yeah, it's me. He had my number. And and why did he have their number in his pocket? Do we know?
No, I mean, I guess
It wasn't Natasha's number.
No, was it her? I didn't know, maybe it was her old number, but more than any other number, you would also recognize that number.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't puzzle through that either. And then we didn't get any answers about the Pinkberry card or about Gogi the dog.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. We didn't hear about the dog and big secret love of Pinkberry. I mean, I'm with him on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pinkberry over Peloton. Sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. No question. We only have one Pinkberry here in Utah, and that's at the airport. So that's like you want to give yourself a little bit extra time if you're going to the airport to get a Pinkberry.
Okay. No, I got to ask you, is it on the side before you check your stuff, or is it when you get over
After.
good,
Yeah.
so you can relax?
Right.
You don't like eat it before you like go through security.
Yeah. They only have a Cinnabon at the airport, and they don't have one anywhere else. And they have a Pinkberry. So it's like party at the airport.
Honestly, if they didn't have those two things, I have a Cinnabon by me and I've got a Pinkberry kind of close. But if they didn't, I would probably go about 6 hours early for every flight and just like space it out, like post up there. You're like, it's my time.
Yeah. There's also this restaurant called Cafe Rio, which is very popular here in Utah. And the airport is the only place that they serve breakfast at Cafe Rio. So yeah, it's a fun place to be when you're at the airport. Although we have a new airport in Salt Lake, which they have designed so poorly. Whenever I get in, I swear I'm not exaggerating, I have to walk a mile to get.
Why is it?
I don't know. Like it's legit. Like we timed it out. It's a mile that you have to walk. Anyway.
Like, what they're providing. They're like, not only do you get all the foods you want, it's like a gym.
Yeah.
They've got like, you can exercise here, you can eat, let's put in some napping pods, we'll get you a massage chair. There's gonna have people buying cheap flights to like hang out at the airport.
Yeah, well, it's like you have to tell your ride, like, hang out, because it's gonna be a while before I get there. But here's a question. So do you think if something, God forbid, happened to your fiance, would you know his password?
Oh,
She doesn't know Big's password.
so, I know all of his like TV password things. I know his phone password. His email, no, I wouldn't.
Well, it's to get into even just the computer itself. She doesn't know the password.
I don't think I would.
So this might be a learning moment for you.
This might be
a teaching moment.
This is a teachable moment that, well, it's interesting. It's interesting when people think about getting their affairs in order, because my dad has all of his like written down. He's very much of that mindset. I know a lot of people who do that. Question for you, because I don't think anyone would know mine for anything, and they're all scattered and I change them all the time. Do you have someone that has all your passwords? Because I don't think anyone could get into my stuff.
Yeah, I think most people would I think that they'd be able to figure out most of them, but there's some things that I would have to tell. I should probably tell some people, like my bank password, that nobody knows that. That's unique, which by design, because I don't want anyone to know it, obviously. But yeah, since I'm not in a couple, it's a little bit different. But I have a will. When I bought my house, I just figured, why not at that point, since I was already working with a lawyer and with other things, just get it done. So I have it done. I sent it to my sister and I'm like, here you go, just have this. And she's like, oh, I don't have to use it anytime soon.
Well, first of all, nice that you bought a house and that you have a will. Like, let's just
I mean, not that I have much to give, but when you're buying a house, like it just seemed like a good time to kind of get that done.
Yeah, get all the, well, because that's the thing with this thing with Big, it's all these unanswered questions about who he was. I think when someone passes, sometimes you do find yourself going, did I ever really know this person? And maybe Gogi was like not even a thing, or Pinkberry was something random. But we realized we never really, not only is it hard to know other people, sometimes we don't even really know ourselves. Like it could be something just totally random, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of this whole sort of rivalry that they've chosen to do for Charlotte and Stanford. And the thing is that like there's plenty of room for like more friends. Like I don't see, especially with Samantha gone, like why not have Stanford be the the fourth member of the group. But there's this like rivalry, which just would make no sense. Like they should be like as close as ever. They should be good friends. And I don't know. I just don't like that the whole thing, especially knowing that he's passed and this is like the last we're going to see of him. Like, why did they wish they hadn't chosen this plot?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that if they were going to use that plot, and maybe we'll see more of that later, I want them to really turn up the heat on it and have it be really funny. But instead, it's just this thing that she's like, wait, you talked about me in therapy, and oh, you're here. I don't love passive aggressiveness in real life or on screen. I would rather like legit fun madcap conflict, super conflict.
Right. Yeah.
Sort of weird thing. And then the bumping in the chair, it was funny, but it also just felt very awkward to me. And as you're pointing out, the fact that he's passed in real life, it made me sad. And it's just like, you know what? Let's actually just welcome into the fold. And then Charlotte's got her great fun thing with Anthony, and Anthony can be like her best guy friend, just the same way Stanford is for Carrie, and they all hang together.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, this is a pretty nice restaurant. I don't think very many restaurants would have any problem. Like he says, a 3-top is always a 4-top. They wouldn't, I don't feel like a nice restaurant would like seat someone where their chair's constantly going to be whacked like that. And I don't know. I just didn't like that whole thing. It was a bummer.
Yeah.
And so we also have Miranda, and she is she's frustrated with Steve. She's obviously attracted to Che. I mean, if it was me, I would have this conflict, but then like Steve come at the end and sort of save the day and restore their relationship and whatever. Like, I mean, why reboot the series only to have one of the couples of the show get, so you have one couple where the character dies, the second couple where they end up in this horrible marriage. Like, it's just not great.
Yeah, and I know Miranda's talking about that dessert bar like it ain't a fun thing, and it's the only thing they've got, but that dessert bar looks pretty great, and it looks like a wonderful way to unwind with the person that you love. Like, I don't think their relationship seems like it's going that terribly. And if you want to take it in the direction where Miranda is sort of feeling and opening up and exploring her sexuality a little bit more, and maybe we'll see this, but I thought it was a beautiful moment when Che's talking about coming out to their family at the comedy show, and we see Miranda's face and we see Charlotte's face, and it's obvious they're moved for different reasons about it. I almost see Miranda realizing she's attracted to her professor, and then just being like, oh no, like I'm attracted to who my professor is, and I may be attracted to her, but I really want to work on things with Steve.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean,
we'll
if
see
she
that.
really hasn't had, if they haven't had sex for 10 years, like you would need help a lot sooner. Like, that is not believable in a marriage. Like, that you would keep things going. Like, that's a long time.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was an exaggeration until it became apparent that
Yeah. I mean,
It's
Steve would have to be the most unself-aware person in the world to like just be completely oblivious to their problems with his marriage when he hasn't had sex with his wife in 10 years, especially when his teenage son is having loud sex in the house with his live-in girlfriend. Like, come on.
It's like when someone's pregnant and they're eating for two, it's like Brady's having enough sex for the entire household.
Yeah.
Like it's weird.
Yeah. My friend Megan Dorsey, we were DMing together and she brought up I thought a really good point. She said that on one hand, I understand the desire to tell a story about a married woman realizing she is gay, but the Miranda and Steve story was the actual love story of the show. Big and Carrie are not the love story. It was always Miranda and Steve and Charlotte and Harry because they had to actually go through a character arc to find love, where Big and Carrie stayed the same. I thought that was a very good point.
I think that's really spot on. And I think we've already seen this reckoning of the lack of sex in their marriage when Steve cheated on her, and was it one of the movies? And then he tells her and then they get back together.
Yeah.
It's like we sort of already, I don't know. Yes, I think that's spot on. The thing that does make me feel good is Charlotte and Harry seem like the banter is the same as it always was.
Yeah, thankfully.
I'm feeling good about that. Yeah.
Mhm.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
The big, I guess, conflict with Charlotte is Rose. She tells her that she doesn't feel like a girl, and her response is just kind of confusion. She doesn't really know what to say. And I feel like that was pretty realistic. I mean, some may find that, slightly bigoted, which maybe it slightly is, but like I think it was realistic that some people would just not know what to say and like are not going to have the perfect response to everything.
Well, I thought her response was funny in a lot of ways, where she's like, it's all right. Sometimes I don't feel like a girl either. And then, right, Lily? Sometimes do you not feel like a girl? And we see Lily casually hanging out in her princess crown, full red lipstick. And we're like, no, these are not like, there are plenty of other young children and, and adults that can relate to what Rose is saying. But I'm pretty sure Charlotte and Lily, they always feel like girls. We see that. Like that's something that they have. I actually think that Charlotte handles it really well, even when she's talking to Anthony about it and saying,
yeah, Anthony's response was weird. Like I would expect him to be like, oh, and instead he was just like, that's nuts. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that, well, sorry, I'm grabbing my phone because I just knocked it off because there was a quote that I really liked later on about it, but I think that it was interesting that Anthony was almost, as someone who is gay and needs to come out to his family or his friends, he almost had a little bit less tolerance about it and looked at it, rather than someone talking about the truth of who they were as a kid, just being like, I'm a dog now. And that's kind of what he alludes to of when we're kids, we don't know what we're doing. Like Charlotte says, oh, well, yeah, when Rose wanted to be a dog, I put out the little bowl of water for her for a week and let her be a dog. And he says, yeah, I wanted to be Tinkerbell when I was a kid, but my mom didn't cut me a costume with fairy wings. And Charlotte says, well, maybe she should have. And I think it actually does bring up a really interesting conversation. I think with Rose, we don't need to take any drastic steps, but if she doesn't want to be called a girl, it's so easy just to be like, all right, come on, kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And kind of let her explore, I guess, use sort of non-binary language. She figures out what she wants to be or what she is, I guess. And I don't know. I just was surprised that for an HBO show that they went that way.
Yeah.
Like it, I don't know. It was just interesting to me. I would expect, especially one that's kind of trying to be more on the woke side. Like, I don't know if they're trying to sort of shame Charlotte, but then to have Anthony build up on that and kind of make it seem like this is crazy was kind of weird to me. I was like, what? That was an odd choice. But it's obviously very moving for Charlotte when she goes to the comedy show and hears about how accepting Che's family was. And so that makes her, want to be accepting. And then she outside, she calls Rose and she says, I want you to know how much I love you. And so, it'd be interesting to see where they go from here. But yeah, I mean, I think that these days, every family, it seems like, has an experience like this, which is good. I think that we're all becoming more open. I mean, I know in our family, I have a sister that's gay, and that was hopefully we responded as well as we could. We tried to be loving, and so I think it's just a new dynamic in American families that in the last 30 years, I would say.
When she told you guys, did you tell her to get away from the TV? Like that was Che's experience. Like, sit down, cool.
Well, she was lucky because she was actually in England when she came out, and we were here, so that, I guess, kind of helped save some awkwardness. But yeah.
One, thank you for sharing that, and two, I think that it does bring up a lot of interesting conversations that I did appreciate about Che's stand-up. I wrote down the line when Che said, I say better to be confused than to be sure. And I think that when we are sure of something, then we're not open to learning new things. And Che talks about that. And I think that a lot of people, myself included, even when you want to be open-hearted, you want to support people, I know I'm sometimes going to mess up and say the wrong things, but that's not going to stop me from trying to do that, because then I'm making it about me not wanting to be wrong rather than supporting that person. So I'm always happy to be corrected or called in or whatever the case is, because I don't always know what to say, but I appreciate when people know that I'm trying to learn, and then I'm gonna get it wrong, and that I appreciate when they tell me.
Yeah, I think that's true. I had a friend whose husband came out as non-binary, and I didn't know what to say because I didn't know if that would affect their relationship, and it hasn't. But I didn't know, is that rude to ask? Are things okay with you two? And so I just I was like, I don't know. And so we ended up having a conversation about an entirely different topic. And then I just sort of asked, I was like, are you two okay? I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know how to ask. And she's like, yeah, we're fine. And she's like, no, I totally understand. I get it. And so people, they're our friends, so they're going to be understanding, they love us and we love them. And so I think most people, unless you're outrightly hateful, people understand that, we're getting, especially in this case, when you're dealing with a child that's, that's not sure themselves. I feel like they get it, so yeah, I was surprised that they went there given the writing of the show, especially with Anthony. and because it's an HBO show, I was expecting something more modern, but like in a way I'm kind of intrigued. So we'll see where the story goes. Especially, I just thought that was some good acting on the part of Krista Davis at the show, her crying, and that was very sweet.
So I will say that I'm tearing up even a little bit thinking about that. Her performance in that part was so just beautiful. It really was. And we know that Charlotte is gonna mess up a bunch of times over the next 6 episodes, and that's okay. We all mess up, but her heart is so pure, as is her love for her kids, and we know that she really loves her family.
So we also have the big part of this episode is the hunt for Natasha. So after they find it in the will, they are looking to try, because Carrie wants to talk to Natasha. She tries talking to her on email, it gets sent back. She tries talking to her on Instagram, she gets blocked. And so basically, like, Natasha, I would think that Natasha would want to talk to Carrie about the will, that I at the very least, I feel like Natasha would understand why Carrie wants to talk to her about this will.
Yeah. But what I think, and this is going back to, the original Sex and the City, and why on an audience level of what is funny to me, seeing Carrie out the window, and like you said, you call it the hunt for Natasha. This is all comedic gold. I'm loving all of it. It feels very OG Sex and the City. I'm here for it. If I analyze this on a deeper level and I think about Natasha's moved on. She told Carrie, like, what happened with Carrie was very triggering for her, to the point where it was like, she probably looks at Carrie either like she is a true narcissist, which I'm not sure that she isn't. I don't know. I love Carrie, but also she's pretty self-centered. And Natasha is like, please leave me alone, years ago. And now that Carrie wants answers from Natasha, now Natasha's expected to be like, let me crack open my life for you. She didn't want the money. She never wants to think about Big again. She never wants to think about Carrie again. She doesn't owe these people anything. Stop harassing her. I am
My favorite line, though, my favorite line was, she's wearing flats. That is the most desperate put down I've ever heard. That was very good. Yeah. And
that was really good.
Yeah, and she finally talks to Natasha she runs into her in the bathroom after she tells them she's in Rome, hence the name of the episode. I mean, I especially feel like at that point that you would let's just have it out. Let's talk it out. Like, I don't know. But anyway, it made for some fun set pieces and some fun sequences. And she clarifies that she hasn't spoken with Big since the divorce, and she has no idea why he left the money to her. And she says, "Why did he marry me when he was always in love with you?" And so then Carrie apologizes for her part in all of that. And he says, we're okay. It's all in the past, but maybe we shouldn't follow each other on Instagram.
When Natasha said that line, that was another part of the episode that made me cry. The line about, I'll never understand why he married me when he's always in love with you, because I am so emotional, because I am, for some reason, I just really love Natasha. I don't know. I just think she was really wronged, not only by Big, but frankly, by all the women in this show. And she doesn't get enough credit for being a good person. And she knew what she was doing by saying that to Carrie. And I think it's the truth, but she was giving Carrie peace. She could have made something up and said, well, John will always be a mystery, but I'm glad he was in my life the way he was, and left it ambiguous about their
Right.
contact.
Yeah, that's true.
Wondering, and left Carrie twisting in the wind without even lying.
Yeah.
She actually, and to me, that is true empathy. Like, she could have said something like, I'm so sorry for your loss, and they could have like held hands and cried. But she said to Carrie what she knew Carrie needed to hear, and why Carrie actually came to her. Because let's be real, Carrie doesn't give two about Natasha. Never has, never will. She just wants to know, was Big talking to Natasha? So this is all a whole selfish thing for that. And I think that I kind of go here, will Carrie ever learn? And Carrie didn't learn a lesson the first time about this. And Natasha begged for her to leave her alone. And she didn't really learn her lesson this time, because she got what she wanted by hunting her down. But at the end of the day, I think we all got peace that it was Big trying to say he was sorry. And that even though, like you said, we don't need to follow each other on Instagram, we can, this chapter of our lives can fully be closed.
Yeah, and I think Bridget Moynahan did a good job playing Natasha. That there was a strength to her character, as you're saying, that I didn't ask for this. I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with who I am. I hope you're happy, and that's it. I don't think that in real life you would really make such a chase. Like, I think you would just either work through your lawyers, or communicate in some fashion, but or you just respond to the email. I think this is what you probably do in real life, but nevertheless, that's how they played it, and I thought it was pretty effective, and also gave us some pretty funny like little moments. Like, I liked when she's like, "This is why I gave up running." That was good.
That was really good. And of course, seeing them all scurry away and like hide themselves, you're just like, all right, this is like the original Sex in the City that I really love, and it really is funny.
Yeah. So the episode ended off with her going back to her old apartment and saying, "Okay, this is home." And that was sweet. That was good. And then also we have Charlotte finding liquor bottles in Miranda's purse, empty liquor bottles. And people that are addicts do tend to leave a trail in so that that's probably pretty real, actually. But I don't know, I'm just kind of annoyed. Like, why do you have to make her like such a screw up? Like, what on earth? In this 10-year unhappy marriage, she's an alcoholic. She's like she's like saying all these weird stuff, and kind of racist stuff, and she's just what have they done to her character? It's bizarre to me.
Like, Miranda, I don't know what is going on.
No,
although
you can make Miranda gay without all this other stuff. Like, what? You have to become an alcoholic and in a loveless marriage? Like,
you're like, this is too much. This is too much. Like,
really is.
for one person, and she's not woke and keeps reminding us. It's like everything. Like, give her something that's going right. Even like, bless. Yeah.
Something. Yeah, it's pretty sad. But that's something we're clearly going to have some confrontation on coming up, and that's going to be interesting, I guess, to see. So we decided it would be fun on this show to talk about one point of fashion that we appreciated. I actually found a really interesting article from the costume designers talking about how they were using a lot of vintage fashion for the show, and really like taking also the pandemic into account as far as sort of more relaxed, casual fashion than what she would have worn in the original show, which I thought was interesting. And I still feel like there hasn't been like fashion that's really stood out as in the way that the show did. originally. But I think my favorite look of the whole episode was Carrie in this like multicolored, it was the last look for Carrie in the multicolored dress with the white jacket, I guess, overlay. I thought that with gold platforms, I thought that was the best look of the episode.
I thought she looked fabulous in that too. And the other two that I really liked on Carrie, well, one, I thought it was cool at Che's show that you had all these people dressed in all these different things. That was kind of fun to see all those fashions. But for Carrie, I did love, and this is pointing to what you said about the vintage looks, the dress that she's in, not when she meets up with Natasha when it's in the coffee shop, but when she goes to see her at her office, and it's that really cute pink kind of like Donna Reed look with the belted,
Yeah,
yes, like black and white, like polka dot belt.
that was cute.
Super cute. And then actually the other look where she's sitting with Miranda, this actually might have been when she's wearing where she actually met Natasha, where she's sitting with Miranda on the steps of Columbia. And it's this really cute shoes that she calls her sneakers that are not, they're like strappy sandals. And this dress that has like this thing underneath and maybe like a badger or like a thing like on the back of the dress, like it's got a shirt underneath. Look, not, and like there's no one who can actually wear this. Even Sarah Jessica Parker can't wear this in the wild because I think it's got like a lot of things that need to be managed by like a professional team. But I just thought it was a really cute, fun, quirky outfit.
Yeah, the costume designer, one of them, it's Molly Rogers and Danny Santiago. And he said in this article, he said, one thing we did want to do because of the time and coming out of COVID, we really wanted to make things happy and bright and have fun that way. I think if anything, you will see some more color surprises. So I can see that. I did like Charlotte with the kind of ruffled black top that she had on in the I think it was the comedy. Thought that was a cute top, cute look. And I looked everywhere. I tried to find the designers and I couldn't find the designers. So whoever you are, well done.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to help us out with that aspect, please, I'd love it. Because I do think it's fun. But yeah, it's interesting because the original fashion designer, Patricia Fields, she is working on Emily in Paris now, so she's not on the show, which is interesting, especially when you think of the style of Emily in Paris, which was kind of bonkers. If anybody watched that show.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know what your favorite look was, and I hope that as the show kind of goes that we get more memorable fashion. We've had a few pieces we talked about, but I hope that, I don't know, as they get kind of more comfortable with the show, that we get even more memorable fashion.
Yeah, we need some more iconic things. It's gonna,
And the one I did, there were two looks that I thought were weird. One was Charlotte, where she was wearing a like nautical dress with a white t-shirt underneath, which I thought was kind of a weird look. And then also another layered look from Carrie, where she had on this a sweetheart neckline dress with a shirt underneath. It kind of was a little bag lady to me.
Well, it's interesting the one you're talking about with Charlotte. I just don't think Charlotte would wear something like that. I think if she did nautical, it would be a little bit more like the style of what Carrie wore with the pink dress, but no t-shirt underneath.
Yeah, agreed.
Like it would be like longer sleeves and like maybe like a
like even like little cap sleeves. I could see her. That would be cute. Yeah. So
happy person. I agree.
I think so. Well, let us know what your favorite look was or least favorite look. And what did you think of this episode? Did you think it was an improvement? Did you think it was garbage? Let us know in the comments. We would love to hear your thoughts. And Jax, thanks so much for doing this. It's always so much fun. And where can people find you?
You can find me at Jacqueline Collier on Instagram and Jacqueline C tweets on Twitter. And yeah, Rachel, thanks for having me. It gives me a really good excuse to one, hang out with a very dear friend, and two, to watch this immediately when it drops and get to talk to you right away. So I love it.
Yeah. I message you like, what did you think? It allows us, it gives us an excuse to let the text chain going at like 3 a.m. I'm like, it's really late there. It's like 5 a.m. in New York.
Like, let's watch it now. Let's watch it now and talk about it ASAP.
Yeah.
We gotta do it.
But you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you want to hear more about my fashion ideas on the Francast that I hosted with my friends, Larry and Colleen, we talked about the fashion from Fran on every single episode. So I really had a fun time with that. So I'll put a link down if you want to check out the Francast. I'm really proud of that show that we did. So yeah, and check out Hallmarkies Podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast on social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We would really appreciate it, especially in this new show. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate that so much. And yeah, let us know what you think. Check out the Patreon group and the merch store. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.